Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Wednesday, January 29th. On today's show, we'll talk about a pretty orderly declines in the indexes today. We had the Fed meeting came and went without a whole lot of fanfare, a lot of earnings reports to check out after the close. But before we do all that, let me turn things over to Ed Carson, who has got three stocks to watch for today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Want to take a look at Cava, State Street, and GE Aerospace.
Very good. Okay, well, I'm going to do what I always do and start sharing my screen here. And let's start by taking a look at the Nasdaq Composite here. Pretty tight action, Ed, today, down about a 0.5%. Nice retaking of the 50-day moving average. Still technically looks okay here.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider that we're still trying to figure out what the heck the whole deep seek news means positively, negatively for various sectors. We had the Fed meeting today, and honestly, the market didn't really end up anywhere different from where it was from before the Fed, or basically the same. And you have all these earnings that are coming out tonight and over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, it's holding up. I don't know what, unless you're very nimble, investors probably don't want to be really that aggressive one way or the other. Uh, but holding key levels.
Yep, very good. And a nice rally for the index yesterday after that gap down Monday below the 50-day moving average. Also, S&P 500, also a constructive session here today. Inside day looks a lot looks similar to Nasdaq, holding support here, Ed.
Yeah, holding support. So, and again, they're not far from breaking support. They're not far from all-time highs. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it wouldn't take much to see a big shift there.
All right, selling pressure a little more muted in the Dow Jones Industrial Average today. We'll take a look at that index, which has also up near highs. Look at that move off of that 42,000 level, up near an all-time high. The one index that's really struggling is the small caps. Several closes in a row now below the 50-day moving average. Do you think this is an interest rate story that's affecting small caps, or why are small caps lagging all of a sudden, in your view, Ed?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe some of it's energy, probably because energy stocks have come off, but
Mm-hmm.
interest rates have fallen the last few days, so
Mm-hmm.
or overall. So they are a little bit out of favor, and they've just every time you think they're going to go, they don't quite. And that 50-day line's big resistance.
hmm And then let's take a look at that 10-year Treasury yield, and let's talk about the Fed because there was a lot of angst as to what the Fed would say today. I know you said earlier today on IBD Live, really not much new was expected. Did we get the 10-year Treasury yield was pretty much flat today? Did you hear anything surprising from Chairman Jerome Powell today?
No, no, the Fed was a little bit hawkish because the Fed statement was a little hawkish because they talked about they upgraded their assessment of the labor market to solid. They no longer said inflation was improving in the statement, still said it's elevated. But Fed Chief Powell was a little bit more dovish, saying I still see improvement, basically, still confident in things. But both the statement and Powell just like, well, there's no rush for them to change rates. This was everything was expected. So yeah.
I thought there was something in the statement too that was interesting. He said that a robust jobs market that has cooled a little bit, that robust job growth isn't necessarily a source of inflation. I don't know if I had heard that before, but that has been the market's worry that if the job market stays strong and we've got full employment, is that going to, fuel strong consumer spending and kind of reignite inflation?
Yeah, I mean I think that's been a concern, but you're right. He did say something like that, which is
hmm
comforting. I think you're right.
Yeah, and of course, a big inflation data point this Friday with the release of the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index. Core prices year over year, they're expected to be up 2.8%. So that's still stubbornly high. That would be unchanged from the prior month. And this is the number that the Fed wants to see closer to 2%. RSP, this is an equal weighted S&P 500 ETF that we like to look at. S&P still holding support, but RSP, it's still kind of testing the line here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. SMH, an ETF, still, well, sharp break Monday and not making much of a rally attempt. Nvidia still in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, so it may take a while for for us to figure out if is DeepSeek a long-term problem, a blip, just something that we just we just don't know, and the
Yeah.
markets don't know.
Yeah, and Nvidia, nice rally yesterday, but that stock was down. It fell today, down 4%, but looks a lot like the Nasdaq, held inside of yesterday's range. Pretty orderly close, right at the 200-day moving average. Financials are still an area to watch in this market. I know we're going to look at a financial stock soon, but this is the XLF, sort of a benchmark financial ETF here. Still fighting a good fight up near highs.
Yeah, and I think that investors should be, especially right now with so many tech earnings and so much uncertainty about AI, that okay, it's one thing to play that one way or the other, but definitely Monday showed why you don't want to be too concentrated in one theme, and there are a lot of areas that are doing well, like in financials that people should be looking at.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at a stock that had kind of fallen off the radar for a little while, a former leading restaurant stock, still in the early stages of growth here. Cava made a pretty impressive move with volume above the 50-day moving average today.
Yeah, really impressive here because people were waiting because it did turn the corner, found support around near the 200-day line a few weeks ago, but you didn't know. You didn't quite know. And today was also the first really strong volume day too. It was pretty convincing. There was a couple of earnings reports from restaurants that did well. So while Cava is still a ways away, that gave confidence. So again, this is another space that investors should be looking at. Cava and the restaurant space. So yeah, Eat was very strong. I think Starbucks broke out. Eat's been really the leader. It broke out. Nobody believed it at the time, but then you see, well, wait a second. Everything really turned up on the earnings in the last couple of quarters. And Starbucks is also maybe a turnaround play.
I know Chili's is a good place to eat. I didn't know it was that good, but apparently this franchise is doing quite well for Brinker International. All right, well we'll keep an eye on Cava as it tries to find a new home above its 50-day moving average. Let's take a look at State Street. Just talking about financials here, this is an asset manager. Saw some good strength across the asset management group today, or investment management group. State Street tried to break out here today. Still a tricky environment for breakouts, though.
It is, and it's been this is an asset custodian. Your growth is solid. It's not amazing, but it's also not richly valued. So it's not like some of these names have been richly valued. You're looking at single digit growth. This is double digit growth, and it's a nice name here. As an asset custodian, it's got a little bit of crypto into it as well. Just nice action here. The relative strength line had trended higher. It's basically at highs right now, and found support other than a couple of shakeout days. Found support around the 50-day line. Just generally been acting pretty well over the last several months.
Yeah, State Street looking strong. I think Stiefel had earnings today. This is tracked in the same industry group, kind of trying to break out of a cup with handle base here. And Blue Owl also in the investment management group, kind of holding near a buy point here. All right, let's take a look at a telecom here, a cell phone firm, T-Mobile,
Well,
TM.
actually, we switched to T-Mobile was good, but
Oh,
switched over to GE.
that's
But
right,
I will say
to
T-Mobile,
GE.
nice earnings move. It followed solid results from AT&T. Maybe it forms a handle here.
Okay, thank you, Ed. And then GE. Uh, this is GE Aerospace, and what do you see here, Ed?
I mean, it basically held the buy point after a nice gap up on earnings. So you might have said, well, wait a second, I don't want it, I'm not sure here because of the gap up on earnings. Well, it's held. It's held that the buy point. So in some ways looks more attractive than it did on its earnings day. Solid earnings, really big earnings growth, acceleration in revenue for a couple of quarters. A lot of things to like here. Again, another solid group is a lot of aerospace names are something for investors to be looking at.
Definitely, I really like that the decline on Monday and Tuesday, where it just really traded tightly and didn't give up a whole lot of ground. So, GE Aerospace back in a buy point. All right, Ed. Well, I appreciate your insight as always. Thank you very much.
Well, could we take a look at a few more names that are
Oh,
after the
that's right.
close?
We've got some after hours activity. My fault. What do you want to start with?
Let's start with Tesla, and we'll
Tesla.
just. It missed views. It's down somewhat. They still are talking about on track for the affordable vehicle, and it all comes down to the Elon Musk earnings call. Uh, but yeah, it was disappointing. It's a lot of the valuation isn't in the earnings anyway. I mean, honest to be honest.
Down almost 3%. Looks like that's going to go below its 50-day moving average here. We also had Microsoft under some pressure today. Looks like that's down by about the same amount as Tesla.
They it looked like they beat views, missed on Azure cloud computing growth. Probably yesterday it got above an early entry, so it's coming back here. The guidance will be coming in probably another hour or two, so that could turn around, or the losses could really accelerate.
All right. We also want to take a look at Meta platforms, see how that's doing.
That beat views, I think, solidly. I haven't really made sure about that, but that seemed to be solid on that. And it's not doing a whole lot, but it's on an 8-day win streak. And again, Meta, Microsoft, Tesla, huge buyers for NVIDIA chips overall. So what they have to say about that, about what they have to say about DeepSeek or anything else, I think people will be really paying attention to.
I'll tell you, after 8 straight games so far, pretty orderly after
Yeah.
hours response. And then also, let's take a look at ServiceNow, sort of a kingpin in enterprise software. Looks like this one is down.
Down a lot. It looked like the EPS just beat. Revenue was in line. Probably depends on the estimate you're looking at, but their guidance was a little light. And right now, I think they did announce a buyback, but that was not enough to satisfy things. And this is important because we saw a lot of software makers move yesterday. Oh, cheap AI and everything. It'll be interesting to see how a lot of those other names move with ServiceNow and Microsoft, but a lot of what Microsoft does isn't software as we normally think of it. So I think that'll be important. I think we are seeing the futures generally fall a little bit on the cues. So because of things like Now and Tesla and Microsoft, but not too bad so far.
Yeah, Q's just on 0.2%. So we'll have to check in on these large cap tech names tomorrow morning. Okay, now we're ready to Ed. Thanks for the earnings reminder, Mr. Carson, uh, and thanks for your insight as usual.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to stop the share here. And that'll do it for today. We appreciate you watching as always. And if you haven't checked out IBD Live yet, go to investors.com//IBD live, and you can sign up and join us for about an hour and a half each morning. We start at 6:30, a little before 6:30 p.m. Uh, Pacific time, and we'll go to a little right around 8 a.m. Eastern time, talking about sector trends, individual stocks, the economy, the stock market. So please join us. But again, that'll do it for today, and we will see you back here tomorrow, same time, for another Stock Market Today video. Thanks, everybody.